Back to the office hour. So, talking about unioning. Because there's a coincidental surface at the bottom, these two may not like each other. But they worked. So since those two worked, that's where I saw your biggest problem being. So let's see what happens with these stones, because I know they're solids. I'm a little concerned about this. You're going to want to pull that in on your actual piece, because that hangs out there enough that from most angles you can really see it. And that may be because I gave you bad advice, but I'm not going to say that on the video that's going to be on YouTube.
Bad advice about using the plate as a curve?
No, as in, instead of having you pull this curdle line down onto the surface, I had you project it from the C-plane straight up. If you project it from the C-plane straight up, you get some distortion. It's usually not bad if the stone is mainly in the center, but if the stone gets off to the side very far, you're better off pulling it. Then it'll, like shrink wrap, like a magnet, and you'll get a little less distortion. This isn't bad, but in your finish you would not want it to hang out that much.
Which I can adjust in my drawing.
Yep, you will adjust in your drawing. Oh, see, it likes that. Likes that.
So you just go through and individually test,
Yep.
adding and adding as you go.
Yep. Come on, be nice to me. There we go.
Even if you just bullions like the stones.
And now this guy has got me a little concerned, because this isn't really, yeah, it's kind of, and it's coming off at a really severe angle. You'd want to think about that in your drawing as well. And this is a pretty thick plate. How thick is this plate?
It's really thick. It's like 1 point. I think I misunderstood. I was remembering what you said incorrectly, because you said 1.2.
2 would be the very thickest you'd want to do.
1.6.
So you have one stone that failed to Boolean, and it's this bad boy right here.
Even if you bulliened like this, would you be in better shape making your 2D drawing than you were before?
Oh yes, oh yes. As much as you can Boolean, do so, because it will give you a better drawing. In this case, you can also try cheating by just moving the thing 0.05 millimeters. Move it up 0.05, see if that'll Boolean union.
Wow. Okay.
You had coincidental surfacing. You had something that was in two pieces. When two pieces of geometry are in the exact same location, yeah, a Rhino has a hard time with the math.
Okay.
So now I'm going to take a look and see how thick this actually is. Analyze length. Oh, I thought that was a. It's 1.345, which is a very peculiar dimension. That's oddly specific, like you meant it to be that.
How could I get the shank?
Oh, the shank will Boolean in without any problem. I'm just going
Get it
to.
out from my gallery.
Oh, in here?
Yeah.
Oh, that's easy to do. So we'll handle those two things separately. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this surface, explode, right-click on explode, it extracts a surface, copy equals yes. I'm going to grab the bottom of this. Surface, edit tools, untrim all. Yep. Offset surface. Minus 0.15. That should get us close to 1.2. Solid difference.
Could you have wire cut that?
Yeah, but I never wire cut, but yes, you
Why
can.
don't you wire cut?
Because it's not predictable, and a Boolean will work just as easily. I can, one more click, I've got a surface. That was pointing the wrong direction. That's why it cut away the wrong part. Okay, how do you get rid of this?
And frankly, I mean, how do I get rid of like everything? And because on the other side,
Yeah, what I'm going to do, I'm going to, because you have to have a thickness of metal here anyway to solder this into. So I'm going to draw a curve just to give myself an idea of the angle I want. Something like that. Going to see if that works. If I mirror it, it does. Going to fill it with a radius of 0. So this center line should give me anything I draw from that point should radiate out at a nice angle. I want to cut away that much of the inside of the shank here, and that much of the shank there.
why are you doing less on that side?
Because you have this will still give me enough metal.
Okay.
Now I can do several things here. I can do a cutting plane. I could actually do I think I could do a wire cut.
Will you show me the cutting plane though? Because we've been doing wire cuts.
Okay. Surface cutting plane, end to end.
It's cutting perpendicular to
The C-plane. Yep.
So if I'm in front, it's cutting.
Just like that. I want to trim these off against each other, because if I don't, I'm going to cut out the bottom of your shank. And then trim. Now I have a little problem here, because I Booleaned those together. So, this is what happens when you make a mistake and you need to go back in space. I'm going to actually turn off the blue layer so I'm not looking at it. Except for it's going to come back as soon as I undo. All my undos. Control C. That copies it out of Rhino onto the clipboard. So now when I redo, it doesn't affect them.
You just copied it. Okay, so you just have it.
Yeah, I just have it. Now I'll paste it back in. And I'll get rid of the red ones. Just like that. Go around, look at it from all sides, make sure I think it's copacetic. It's a little bit troubling here. You see how that kind of hangs out? So I have to decide how much that concerns me. It doesn't really concern me very much. But instead of Booleaning it, I'm going to split it for that very reason. So now I have these, which I will put on a different color. I have this piece, and I have this piece. I am going to make this piece blue, so it's easy to see. I'm going to steal the top of this. Right-click on Explode, copy equals yes. Going to take that surface, untrim all. Going to make sure it points downwards, inwards. Flip so that I can Boolean this. Now that's an open poly surface. Rhino's going to hate it if I try and Boolean that. So cat planar holes. Any flat hole will now be filled. Solid difference.
What are you Boolean? Oh.
Solid cat planar holes. Solid union. Solid union. Solid union.
Wow.
Okay. Make 2D drawing. So there you go. Group, just so I can turn that off. Ungroup. Throw the 3/4 view away. Group. 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 And I don't like how far apart those are spaced. Group them all together. Bring this back out, and then pick your 3/4 view. Set my camera onto that. Zoom selected. What angle do you want to see this from?
I kind of liked it from the yeah, keep going. I was thinking like showing the emerald side. Like that.
Okay.
Or but down. I don't know, what do you think?
Well, it's one of those asymmetrical designs that's not going to be really well suited by a 3/4 view. But yeah, this would be all right. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So, set view, named views, save view, 34. The 3/4. Make 2D drawing. Oh, bad me. Make 2D drawing current view. Group. Sphere. Yeah, somewhere in there. Now, in order to get it back to where it was, set view, 34. Circle diameter. Take this one. And we're going to have a tough time because not much of that sphere showed up. If I'd have Boolean unioned it, more of it would have showed up, but it would have still been confusing. I don't mind. But I will go into the top view just so I'm not dealing with any distortion from the camera. 2 points, send, because it will have a center. And let's see if I have any quadrants available. I do. Haha, that was luck. Scale 3D.
Why are you choosing 3D?
It's a flat, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Flat curves, so you can't be anything but 3D scale. 2D scale would make no difference because it's 2D.
Oh, yeah.
So that's right. Okay, do the same thing again. This time I'll just pick any place where I have visible references. And that's now to scale. And for rendering, we want to scale that up. 1.5. I would usually actually do mine more like that.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Rectangle, so that you have some way of isolating this from the rest of the page in Photoshop and Illustrator. And just because I like it centered around the ring borer, I'll move the whole thing back to the middle. And File, Export selected. Make sure it's set to all the good stuff. And then go to the desktop. Looking for Illustrator files. Right there. Click on the canvas just to activate your window. Control. That didn't still do it. Control A. Control G to group. Drag them out into the middle. And set this to 0.33. And export to the desktop. JPEG. Make sure this is set to high. 300 ppi, art optimized, RGB. We're good. Coming back to here. It's going to be hard to find because my desktop is a mess. Right here. Except for I didn't want to open it in Viewer.
Decide if I should do gouache or Photoshop.
So there are your lines in Photoshop. Control A. Control. Actually, I got to click in the background, or it's not going to know I'm here. Control X. New canvas. Make something that you can print out easily. 7.5 by 10 by 300. Paste. Oh shit! That's Isolina. Shouldn't be swearing on a YouTube video. So I'm gonna Control Shift I to invert selection and cut. That way I just have the lines. I don't ever like my lines the way they come out. Now in Painter I can rotate them a little bit to blur them. In Photoshop it doesn't work. They just don't blur. So I've never tried to actually just use, let's try that, adjustments. I've never used blur in Photoshop before, to be honest with you. Filter, blur. But see, I think if I blur that, yeah. No, that doesn't help. So, no. And unfortunately, the other thing I try and do doesn't work in here. But what I am going to do is I'm going to drop the opacity, because jet black is very difficult to draw against. That all by itself makes it more natural looking. And then I'll flatten it.
For the final rendering, do we draw it in pencil?
You would actually print this out if you could and paint on that. So your problem is finding some place that'll print on a good paper for painting. Staples used to do it. They are fussier about it now. If you can get a cheap backloading printer, or if you have a backloading printer, that will do it also. I'm just curious to see if I flatten the image first, and actually I really want to be able to do my Rhino thing. I really do. I mean my painter thing. It's going to make me convert it to a normal layer before I can do anything else. Image, edit, transform, rotate. And then transform, rotate. See, because of the way it does it, it's just really not going to make any difference. As soon as I hit paintbrush, it'll... Maybe that did. Should have kept the original. That actually might look a little smoother. That's worth trying. So anyway, that gives you what you want as far as... You can change the layout if you want to, but that gives you your lines in Photoshop. I'm going to stop this one because you're out of time. It's true.